Hi, this is Vidi from Subterranean Masquerade, and you're listening to Rhino Radio.
Subscribe.
Or of Rhino Radio. And today I'm super excited, more than usual, because I'm getting some home vibes thanks to a dear musician, a close friend, Vidi of the great Israeli band Subterranean Masquerade. How are you doing today, Vidi?
Hey, all, how are you doing? It's really good to be here. Hi, everyone that's listening. Hi, thank you for having us.
I'm great. Thank you very much for joining me. We've been talking about this interview for about a year now.
That's true.
I,
That's true.
I think everything was ready, and then Corona happened, and you started
Mhm.
teasing us with some great tunes. But finally, luckily, Corona is kind of over in Israel, so you were able
Amen.
to, and you got a great deal with a label, and found, and Mountain Fever is finally out. I already told you, my girlfriend hates me because I cannot stop playing your album. I was cooking breakfast with it on Saturday. We had lunch with it. I was cleaning. Every single occasion on Saturday was Mountain Fever. So I love it. Yes, you might have to pay for my couples counseling because of that, but thank you for the great tunes. How was the release for you?
We are very excited about everything that's going on right now. The album is being very well received. To be honest, I was a little bit nervous because this is the first album that I'm doing with Subterranean Masquerade. Before me, there were other singers, very known one from Norway, Kjetil Nordhus. So I'm stepping into very big shoes, and we are very happy to see that the critics love it, the audience love it. We have new friends all over the world right now, and all we're doing now is trying to book these tours. When the COVID actually ends, we can come and play for everyone. But right now, I am very grateful for everything that's going on.
Well, as I said, I've enjoyed it. I'm really happy that you were welcome and embraced with both arms. Um, Thanks to the great music. So I'm really happy to have you as part of the band now. And
Thank you.
I've already heard supposedly the true story behind the name of the album. But as I've already mentioned to you before we started recording, I've done my research. I want to confront you with a rumor. Are you ready?
Sure, let's do it.
A bit a bit nervous. Okay, so I know that the band's been active for quite a while, and I know that you have different interests, and influences. So I
Yeah.
heard that the working title for the album was Saturday Night Mountain Fever. Is that true?
Saturday Night Mountain Fever.
Was that the original title of the album before it got shrunk into Mountain Fever?
I actually don't know.
You're not sure.
I'm not sure. I'm not
Okay, maybe
sure.
it was true.
Oh, but we need to ask Tomer. He probably
Okay,
knows. It makes sense though, when I'm
okay.
thinking about what the album is about or about Tomer's work. It makes sense. I have to check it out, and I will write you back about that.
So it's
Um,
probably true. He was stuck in the Golan Heights watching
yeah,
John Travolta, and it all got combined into an album.
that that kind of makes sense.
Okay, I had a
That kind of
feeling.
makes sense.
Yeah, okay, most
Saturday
rumors are
Night
usually
Mountain
true.
Fever.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, people. Apparently, that is probably true. Okay, let's go a bit more serious. I know that one of the main themes of the album is about kind of feeling lost while actually at home. And I
Yeah.
found it a bit
True.
interesting. First of all, you were born in Israel, but you spent quite a few years in Scandinavia.
Yeah, that's true as
And
well.
then recently you came back to Israel. But
Hmm.
so you're kind of home, but then the main theme is about not feeling home while at home. Can you explain that to me? Because it's a very interesting feeling that I'm not sure a lot of people relate to, or at least put into words.
Yeah, I'll try. I'll do my best. So far, the former catalog of Subterranean Masquerade was all the themes were about journeys, and were about a vagabond kind of life, nomadic kind of life, looking for yourself in foreign lands, being a stranger in a strange land. Now, what happened when Tomer was stuck? on that mountain in Golan Heights, which some of you might know, it is a numb volcano. So he was stuck over there. It's the north of Israel on the Syrian border. He was there for 3 months. It was very harsh winter. And usually Tomer writes the music in India. This was the first album that was actually, the music was written entirely in Israel. So Tomer wasn't feeling very well, you know. This is maybe why he was like binge watching John Travolta, you know. So and he wrote the music, and he gave me the title Mountain Fever because he was on a mountain and because he wasn't feeling very well. And the music was supposed to serve as the cure of it. So on this album, what I wanted to do is to kind of twist the concept of the band a little bit and try and focus on a different angle of being a nomad. And I found a lot of influences by the idea of exile as a spiritual thing and not as a geographical thing. So what we were trying to achieve, what I was trying to achieve with the lyrics and what we were trying to do with this music here was to create the most honest self-portrait about what we're feeling, about where we are from. And when we say where we are from is not only that, okay, I was born here and this and that, but also where my parents are from, where my grandparents are from, and does certain behaviors from the past affect who I am today? And this creates a lot of critical kind of thinking about who you are and what belongs to you, what are your fears, what are your inner voices that are actually yours, compared to what are voices that are being contained inside of you because it was forced upon you, not because of aggression, but sometimes because of love. Because the people who loves you, they're being overprotective, for example, and then you get a certain identity or certain mental behavior in a way. So that's what I mean about feeling in exile while you're at home, because the album really tries to explore and raise questions about our own personal autobiography, which sometimes we did not feel that we belong. This was one of the reasons that I moved to Scandinavia. And this was one of the reasons that I went back home.
And obviously, it kind of relates to the historical story of the Jewish people moving around, whether it's the really prehistorical one of the tribes of Judea, or even the last 100 years of people moving around Europe and Russia. So I like how that all relates, and a lot of people can relate to that because a lot of tribes and people moved over the last 100, 200 years around Europe. And I know that the album has a personal touch to you and your grandma. Can you elaborate on that?
Very true. Yes. Part of the story, part of everything was my relationship with my grandmother. My grandmother was born in Romania, in the eastern northern part of Romania, and she immigrated to Israel at the end of the 40s. She was in Cyprus, stuck in Cyprus for a while, and she got back. She got to Israel, and her husband died when she was very, very young. I'm her firstborn grandson, and my relationship with her was very important to me. At the end of her life, she suffered from very severe Alzheimer, and when it all started, there was no one to be with her. So I was the guy that came to her house, and I was being with her while she became worse and worse. And so I kind of started hearing stories that I've never heard before about her. And I don't think it was always on purpose. I think a lot of things came out with the illness. And the album speaks about two main emotions, which are love and guilt, which are two emotions that I feel that they can bind a person to a place, or they can bind a person to another person, or to roots, or family, or countries. Um, and and so when I felt it's like that. For example, my grandmother, when these were the last years of her life, and she started insisting on going to sleep with her shoes on, so she can leave in the middle of the night if something happens. And I thought, like, hey, all of my life I am feeling that I need to run. So run away. So the fear of being uprooted became for me the fear of growing roots. I didn't want to stay in one place. And at some point, I thought maybe this is part of my identity. As you mentioned about the history of the Jewish people, there is something that is called kisufim, which means in English, longing, yearning. And the idea that no, even if you're where you're supposed to be, you're gonna long for something, you're gonna feel a certain void, and you're gonna feel the urge to move on, to move forward, to move away, but you need this movement. And I never knew if I'm feeling that because of the crisis my grandparents went through. And, I was educated in a way that I cannot sit still and relax. Or this is something that is going way deeper into my identity and the culture of the community which I'm from. And I didn't know that. So the album speaks a lot about the thoughts that came up from those last meetings with my grandmother.
And
I have
does
her here on my arm. Actually, I tattooed her on my right arm, but everybody in Britain thinks that I have a tattoo of Susan Boyle. And I say, yes, it's Susan. I love Susan.
well, your connection to the British public as well is beyond us. Um, but I want to talk about that connection to the family that on one hand supports us, on the other hand sometimes kind of keeps us with that guilt of not moving
Yeah.
forward. As we already said, you did move away from Israel, you came back, and then you wrote an album about feeling like you're at home, but you're not at home. So I was wondering, what was your relation with that traveler's guilt? As we said, the previous albums talked about traveling. I think a lot of us, especially after the last year that we were not allowed to go anywhere, we felt that traveler's bug very
Yeah.
strongly. And
Right.
but then we go away and we either feel bad because we have to catch up with work, or because our friends are making us feel bad because we didn't take them with us, or maybe our family because we either lost some of their story, or because we are away from them. How does that relate to you moving, going back? As you said, your strong connection to your grandma. Um, how would you translate that traveler guilt to your story?
Whew. I love your question. I love your question. Um, Look, it's like that. Um, I moved from Israel because I was looking for something bigger in terms of making art and studying about myself and studying singing. I was very inspired, and because it's a small country, I'm not even talking about the political background or post-trauma or all of these elements. I'm just speaking about being someone from a small town that wants to, get bigger, wants to swallow the world. And for that, I couldn't stay. And my surroundings were not approving it. They did not understand why do I need to move away. And it was bound with love and guilt. And the guilt came in different ways. It came from this overprotective place of identity, the fear of being erased in a way if I'm going back to where my grandmother left. This was one thing, and that created a lot of guilt in the beginning. But I wanted to heal from this trauma. And in order to do that, you need to meet people. You need to travel. You need to see other cultures. You need to be able to have fresh thoughts. And you also need, to get away of all the triggers. So for me, when I moved to Scandinavia, that was great because no one knew who I am. No one knew my struggles. No one knew anything. And I could just be that guy that came there to sing, to learn how to sing, to share thoughts about what gives me meaning and pleasure, and be influenced by others, and be able to break from the box that I was trying to be put at. Again, just because people around me were afraid. They couldn't understand, why is it that I'm so fixated with making art? And it's a conversation that is still happening today, when I'm back here, and I'm not that interested in in things that other people here are interested at, then in many ways I feel like an outsider.
So what is
But I'm
home
also,
for you?
where is home for me?
What is home?
What is home for me?
I'll get back to you in a week.
Yeah, get back to me. The answer will be also different probably, but for me, this is the place where I can be myself. For me, this is the place where I can focus on my artistic desires, where I can grow. So home is mobile, not a mobile phone. You know what I mean? Like home. Sometimes you need to travel in order to be at home.
I'm going to take it even deeper, and I really hope that you are not going to hate me for that. But is home that understanding what you said about feeling free, about being creative, about being welcome? Is it other people, or is it actually you? Is it a state that you need to reach, or surround yourself by specific kind of people?
I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure yet. Because when I was in Denmark, I I felt I reached a place where I knew I didn't belong. Like I would go certain places and it's clear that I'm not from there, right? I'm too short to be a Viking. So but at the same time, something about the potential of what I could become, in a sense of self-expression, was giving me safety. So I am not sure if it's the people, because when I came back to Israel, I realized a lot of triggers are gone. Things that hurt me before were not hurting me anymore when I got back. So there was a certain relief, a certain remedy in Scandinavia. And then I could start being myself here. So maybe the answer, it's more about me than the people around, but you want to be in touch with your friends and family. and sometimes the friends and family create certain triggers. So I think ideally it will be a combination of being around the people that you love, not because you chose to love them, but because you simply love them, and at the same time not feeling um, that it hurts you. If it makes sense, I don't know if it makes sense to anyone who's listening, but if one person knows what I'm talking about, then cool.
Well, I
If
really
not,
love
that's
it.
fine.
I love it. And thank you much for sharing that with us. I know that's a bit deeper than you probably expected from this conversation,
No,
but it just
I
went
love this.
there. So
Yeah,
I
let's
really
go there,
appreciate you.
wherever you want.
Let's go there. So let's try and wrap up with kind of going back to the themes of the album. I know that the main
Yeah,
story is the story of the prophet Eliyahu. And I saw that also on the cover art with the flaming chariots. So it kind of
yeah.
goes biblical. And the
Mm-hmm.
funny thing is that I don't know if people in Israel understand that, but for many people, being from Israel means that you are from a specific place, means that you speak a specific language, and means that you believe in a specific God, right? The Trinity of Judaism, Hebrew, and being Israeli.
Yeah,
So connecting that to the fact that the album is a little bit about the Bible, even though I heard that it's also affected by specific sleeping pills that you took and caused
yeah,
you to see
still
some
not.
things.
Yeah, that's
So I
true.
wanted to know how much is that is actually inspired by spirituality or faith or religion or just creativity? Where are you on that spectrum between art and faith? Take it to whatever definition you would like, if it's even there.
Wow. Um, well, there's a lot of spirituality in this album. We are very much influenced by klezmer music and Balkan music, and we feel that music should elevate the listener, and we want the music to elevate us as well. So we're writing the music that makes us feel like we are being elevated, and this is very, very important for us. Um, there is a reason I chose Prophet Eliyahu, Elijah. I chose him because I live on Carmel Mountain, and his story is on Carmel Mountain. And up here at the point of the mountain, at the highest point, there is a very big statue and a monastery. Um, and the entire story about him going up to the heavens on chariots of fire, he was a very rageful person. He wasn't a very nice person, like according to the stories. He was very sterile in making sure what he believes in um, will be will become reality. And I'm not sure that this is the right way to go with things. Um, but because we're talking about a fever, we're talking about a spiritual fever. So these chariot, the fire, the rage sometimes make you feel very vivid, very alive. And I think that while we want people to feel welcome when they're listening to our music and be happy when they're listening to our music, at the same time, we want them to feel very much alive because of the subtexts of the music. Um, artistically, there is a lot of spirituality going on here. A lot of psychedelics. The guys love psychedelics in the band, and I thought that it will be correct to also share my stories with sleeping pills. I have insomnia, and I'm using different sleeping pills to sleep to the point that I got addicted to it. And the Still Knox Oratory, it's song number 6. It's actually speaking about when you're taking some of these pills and it's not working, you're not going to sleep, your brain starts functioning very, very differently. And you see things and you hear things because you're kind of in a dream state, but awake. And when you are very deep in a crisis and you're on these medications, sometimes it feels very spiritual. So I thought it will be correct to put it in the album and see how much of the Bible I can take, because it makes sometimes like very strange biblical emotions. Like for me, it feels like, okay, something's happening. I wasn't sure what it is. And because this band is about asking questions, that's why it sounds that way. And mashups of everything, it seemed appropriate to try and articulate the spiritual fever or the mental illness or the insomnia or the rage that is being caused by all those emotions through biblical elements, because it was something that I felt just makes sense when I'm looking outside of the window or when I'm traveling by the sea and I see the cave of Elijah from the mountain. So yeah, his cave, by the way, I have to say, his cave in the Middle Ages, they used to take people that were mentally ill and they thought that the devil possesses them. So they used to take people into the cave and throw them inside for 3 days, and then they would come out fine. So it just made sense to me that where I live or where I was born will get all of its colors, not just, through the music, through the klezmer, through the Balkan, but also through the sceneries of what I'm seeing here around me and within me. Sometimes the walls melt, sometimes it's just psychedelics.
Vidi, before we say goodbye, I want to ask you one final question about one of my favorite tracks on the album, Somewhere I Sadly Belong. Also comes with a great video that has some sign language in it. And if I'm mistaken, it's some sort of a question to wake up society and say the society is not listening, the society is deaf. We had a crazy year that I was hoping that after being locked down, people will come out a bit more positive, a bit more friendly, and will learn more than just washing their hands and making banana bread. Let me utilize your platform. And what would you wish the world to come out of Corona and be better with? How should we be nicer to each other? What's your note to the world?
We have to stop letting other people in power divide us. We have to stop letting them do it. And I think Somewhere I Sadly Belong it is influenced, and it came out from my pen talking about eventually my grandmother and how trauma and crisis are being inherited from generation to generation, and we are just not stopping it. And we need to stop it. And we are deaf towards each other, not only because we let leaders affect us, but we are deaf towards each other because we just became a very egocentric society, I think, all over the world. And I think that we can do much better being kinder to each other and listening to each other. And this is why we have the sign language, because people need to listen to each other more.
I love it, Vidi. I love it. Thank you much for sharing everything. Thank you for opening up. Thank you for the music. As we said, Mountain Fever is out
listening.
now. I've been waiting for it for a year. We talked about it for so long. You kept on promising me more singles, and now it's out. So I thank you for everything around that. So thank you very much for your time. As we said, Mountain Fever is out. If you haven't already, go and check it out. This is Vidi. That's the music. Should be with you. Thank you very much, Vidi.
Thank you all. Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure, and I hope we meet live, soon.
Subscribe. Subscribe.